Hello guys, this is JP for Time Traveler's Guide. Hope you're all doing well. Today I'm going to look at a few events in history, specifically the 8th of July. So there's two main events I'm going to look at. The one being part of the Vietnam War, but briefly only, and then secondly Roswell as well. But before we get to those two, a few other events of note that took place on the specific day. Actually, in this day in history, there was 5 nuclear tests performed, 2 of them by the United States and 2 of them by Russia and 1 by France. And then to link in with the nuclear subject, 1957, the first nuclear disarmament conference was held in Nova Scotia in Canada. Then also on this day in 1988, Stevie Wonder actually announced that he would run for mayor of Detroit. I don't remember anyone ever referring to Stevie Wonder as being a mayor, so I don't think that was successful. I'm not even sure if it ever did take place, but it did announce that he would take part in the running for mayor of Detroit. So yeah, that's another topic for the 8th of July. Then looking at one of the most famous wars that I'm sure all of you would know about, the Vietnam War. In 1969, close to the 8th of July, the United States began withdrawing troops from Vietnam. They remained active in Vietnam until up to, I think, 1973. And they did have quite a few troops there. I think it's close to 500,000 troops at its peak at one stage, if I'm not mistaken. For those of you that don't know the history behind the Vietnam War, just a brief bit of history on some of it. Basically, the Vietnam War took place from, let's make sure, 1955 up to 1975. This was basically between North and South Vietnam. The North Vietnamese being supported by the Russians and the Chinese, basically the communist bloc, the USSR and China. Russia wasn't really directly involved in this war, but they did supply munitions and weaponry and all kinds of support to the North Vietnamese. And Chinese, I think, obviously they were involved as well, but they did have more troops involved they had more skin in the game, if I can put it like that. South Vietnam were basically backed by countries such as New Zealand, Australia, and so forth. Actually, Australia and New Zealand both lost quite a few troops in this war. 521 Australian troops actually died in Vietnam. I wasn't even aware of this. And 37 from New Zealand. And then from China's side, there's about 4,000 troops, Chinese troops, that perished in this war as well. The United States lost 58,000 men, close to 58,000 men in this war. The South Vietnamese lost 313,000 men. Then the North Vietnamese lost 850,000 men. This is just estimates, because I think this was really a jungle warfare type deal, and I think that most of these people that's presumed dead were actually missing in action and just never found. And also, if you take into account that in the Vietnam War, there was more bombs dropped on Vietnam than was dropped in the entire Second World War, which is a huge number, especially from the United States side. It formed part of the tactics to basically bomb the shit out of a specific area before they actually entered it, because it was dense bush and jungle, and there was lots of hiding place. Obviously, there was lots of trenches and tunnels and stuff that the North Vietnamese and the communist backside, basically were hiding in. It's estimated that about 4.2 million people in total died in the Vietnamese War. And like I said, that's just an estimate. that's the high range estimate. It could be a bit lower than that, but the estimate it could be as high as 4.2 million people that died in this specific war. The French were actually involved in Vietnam before the Americans truly got involved, but they withdrew and they didn't get involved any further. Not in a physical sense, as in having troops on the ground. The Americans did withdraw in 1973, like I said earlier, and after this, in 1975, Saigon, which is the capital of Vietnam, or South Vietnam, fell. In other words, basically, then the whole of Vietnam fell under communism again. So there's many different theories on why the United States were involved, or what their goals were with being involved in the Vietnamese War. The official ones I'm not sure about. I didn't get into that much detail doing this bit of research, but I don't think we're ever going to know what the real agendas were in this war. They're most likely hidden, and it might be a type of distraction. Maybe in the long run, this was a long play by the United States, maybe in terms of coming to a close in terms of Russia, the fall of communism in Russia, the fall of the Soviet Union in '98. Maybe that's got something to do with it. I don't know. But it could be an interesting topic for future reference as well, the Vietnam War. And well, some people actually considered Vietnam War like a proxy war. It forms basically a proxy war as part of the Cold War, which does make sense, seeing as there were people involved that didn't have physical boots on the ground, but they actually did support financially in terms of weaponry and so forth, and logistics and intel, obviously. But quite an interesting part of history, and pretty much a useless war, in my opinion. Maybe if we all knew the real reasons why they had this war, it might not be so useless, but I think this was a useless waste of human life, like any war actually is. I totally understand if there's a war and it's to stop some kind of injustice in terms of preventing like a genocide or something like that. That I do understand, but I think many countries use that as an excuse. I don't think some countries would get involved in wars purely for that reason. But if there's financial gain or some kind of logistical gain or anything like that, countries tend to use that excuse. Okay, so like I said, the United States withdrew in 1973. It was said that they withdrew because of political pressure, or pressure from the populace that got tired of being involved in a war. So fought so far from home, and just basically giving their sons lives for they felt nothing. I think most likely it could be true, but also keep in mind that a nation uses its media to influence its people. Maybe a bit more in today's life than back then. Well, I would think especially today. So today I would not buy that excuse, because the media have such a huge impact on what people think. At the end of the day, it's public opinion, and what causes public opinion to change? The media, through social media, through the mainstream media. It's all a tool used by people in power, and remember, this is just my opinion, but the media is a tool and governments use it. It's no longer at the stage where just TVs and radio stations are there. There's people all over the planet, in each country, glued to their cell phones, glued to their technology, and every day they are bombarded by information. And whoever controls that bombardment of information and control what of that information is shared and made public knowledge, that specific entity or individuals, they basically have a huge impact on society and on public opinion, which basically, well, runs the world to a degree, or influences what happens in the world, and that's controlled. So that's it from my side in terms of Vietnam. But now we're going to touch on a different topic. The next topic I would like to look at. In 1947, reports began circulating in the United States of a UFO crash, or a flying disc crash in Roswell, New Mexico. And those of you who are passionate or were passionate about UFOs and aliens and so forth, this basically gave birth to stuff like X-Files, and whole culture started around this. It was later confirmed by the United States, I think the Air Force, that it was a balloon, a monitoring balloon for nuclear tests. Not everyone bought that story, and I think the truth is probably somewhere in between. I'm not convinced that it was like a UFO or an alien spaceship that crashed there. Most likely it's somewhere in between. It's probably some sort of an advanced aircraft being tested that crashed, most likely that they covered up. Which also to a degree does not make sense if you think about it. If it's a experimental craft that they used, it should still be light years behind what we have today, or what they have today. So if it was that, then it should have been declassified a while back already, which makes you think maybe there was something to it. I don't know. Maybe it was just a weather balloon and people got excited about nothing. Yeah, I'm not saying there's not a possibility of intelligent life out there. Maybe there is. I don't know. All of us, well, if you've lived long enough, I'm sure somewhere in your life you had to have seen something that you couldn't explain. I did once, but it was many years back, and I didn't record it. There wasn't even cameras at that stage. It might have been nothing. I don't know. But the possibility is there. I'm not denying the possibility is there. In terms of if you look at how big the universe is, and how small a part of it we form, yes, the possibility is there that there is intelligent life out there. And especially in today's life, where there's so many cameras, many people unintentionally pick up stuff that they can't explain. And I think this will increase because there's so many more cameras in the world. I mean, everyone's got a camera on their smartphones. There's cameras being put up all around us every second day. So there should be more footage of weird stuff that's available. The more cameras you have, obviously, the bigger your chance of actually catching something on a video that's not, well, explainable or unexplained. So I think that would be quite cool. In a sense, I don't like how many cameras there's going up, but if you look at this, it's quite a ride we might be in for, in terms of seeing more stuff in future that we can't explain, which makes life interesting. Like I said, I'm not convinced either way. There might be, there might not be. I don't really care, to be honest. I personally haven't seen a little green man. I'm not convinced. I would need to see some more evidence of this to truly believe it. Yes, there is unexplained things, according to me. Yeah, especially in terms of governments covering up stuff, in terms of highly advanced technology and stuff. That I definitely know there would be some stuff that would blow our minds. So yeah, that would be quite cool to know how many unexplained events is actually related to government experiments and so forth, or maybe even corporate companies experimenting with stuff. So yeah, that would be quite cool. Yeah, so, but in any case, guys, I'm not gonna make this video much longer. I appreciate you guys that's watching. Yeah, I'll see you guys again. Enjoy the rest of your day or your night, and hit the bell and subscribe and like if you like, or yeah.